Hey, hi guys. So far, whatever we have seen is how to do some programs in Python using operators and little bit on branching. So in continuation to that, so today we're going to see about few more programs still branching. So these programs are more helpful, as I said, to school students who's doing particularly to CBSE 11th Python students or international students who just started just doing Python. It's a little bit for like 10 to 15 years of age or whatever it feel like, right? So this is beginning of the programming. So it's a good way. So whatever programming language you start with, importantly solve more programs. So the idea here is to bring up the logic. It's not give the solution as such. So I recommend the students to think through the programs and also do a lot of some similar stuff to get some idea. Okay. So we'll get started. So first one is area and perimeter of a rectangle, right? So it's quite simple. What is area and perimeter? We would all know. So the area of a rectangle is L times B and perimeter is 2 times L plus B, right? So basically for to complete this program, so what are the things whenever you do a program, you need to understand what are the things you need to get from the user. So here the length and the breadth are the two inputs and you're going to calculate the area and the perimeter accordingly. So we're going to use idle here quickly. The Python data. Let's create a new file. First, let's save as. Go to the place for this. Save in some folder. Let me create this as a rectangle, right? So now here, so as I told, you need to get two inputs from the user. So the good free thing about Python, we already know we don't need to declare anything. So you can use the variables on the floor. So that we already seen in our previous sessions, right? So let me name some meaningful names. Length, int of input, enter the length of the rectangle. So this will help the program to wait for the user input, right? So the input is the console input where the program waits for the user input. And once you get, you convert back that to an integer. So that gets, you get back length, right? And then breadth is equal to int of, sorry, input, enter the breadth of the rectangle. Right now, what you need area and a perimeter, right? So it can be on the floor. So L times P, and then perimeter is equal to 2 times L plus B, right? And then in order to display the result, you just say print area. The rectangle is area, and the perimeter is perimeter. All right. So let's run this quickly. Length of the rectangle 12, enter the breadth of the rectangle 25. Okay. So what is the problem here? So the problem here is as simple as that, right? So the formula is L times P, but the area and the perimeter requires the variables you use in the program, right? So you need to use whatever you got as an input. So these are the variables. So when the user enters the program, right, it prompts for the input. So in this case, the 12 gets stored in the variable called length. The 25 gets stored in the variable called breadth. So now this is the one which holds the length value and this one which holds the breadth value, right? So you need to completely focus on those variable names, right? Okay. To the left of rectangle 12, 13. So the area of the rectangle is 12 times 13 and the perimeter is, as we know, 50. So now let's think of other type of inputs where what happens, can I give the negative number? So when you do program, you need to think of all the cases. Since this is addition and multiplication also are always commutative and associative. So you don't need to worry about that. That means A plus B and B plus A both are same. So the logic will not change. Even multiplication is also the same case. So you don't need to worry about the input of how it's going to be negative numbers in the order of the formula, right? And the second point towards it is, say for example, what if you give some alphabets instead of numbers? So that we will see later when we deal with exception handling. Now the program will fail for sure, right? So now when I say run this program, here we go. Yeah. So I run this program, the length of the rectangle, suppose I give a. See here, the program fails. So ideally what happens here is you're trying to convert to int and it's not able to convert it. It's telling you're trying to convert to int, which is a base 10, and you just find a way. So we will read exception handling. So then we will know how to convert. What if the user enters some input and how you can keep on prompting the user until he enters the correct input, right? Okay, let's move on to the next program. I'm trying to give all possible ways the students might think. That's why when I try to run, not only I'm working out for the positive cases, I show some negative cases also, like what are the things the user might go wrong, etc. Right? Okay, fine. Now let me go back again to the next program. Heron's formula for triangle, right? So what is Heron's formula? So Heron's formula is more of calculating the area of the triangle, right? So first we need to calculate the half a perimeter, a plus b plus c by 2. And then we need to find s times s minus a times s minus b times s minus c. So basically you will find the half a perimeter and then multiply these values and take a square root of it, correct? So it's a square root of this value is the area of a triangle, right? Area of a triangle. So first you find s is equal to a plus b plus c by 2. And the area of the triangle is square root of, as we know, s times s minus a times s minus b and s minus c. So basically what's going on here, right? So the Heron's formula helps us to find the area of the triangle of any of the triangle, right? So we know half times base times height, but that just gives the area of the triangle of a right angle triangle because you know the height and the base values from the three sides of the triangle, correct? But what about the scale triangle and other triangles? For any of the triangle, Heron's formula gives us the values. So now what if we want to write a program for it? And so that we use this program whenever we want to know the area of the triangle at any point of time, right? So let's go back quickly and try to create another program. So remember for the rectangle program, we used everything as an int, right? It's quite possible. So when you use an int, what about you give some decimal values? It may not work, correct? So you may lose that. So at that time, you may need to give some other conversion from the input. Okay. So let's take the three sides of the triangle. Okay. So I'm going to name it as a side one. I'm going to use it as a float. Okay. Again, thinking of getting decimal numbers. Enter the side one of the triangle. Let me quickly copy paste this to make it as side 2, side 3. Right. So what is the next step is to find the half perimeter, right? So S is equal to side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3 divided by 2. Okay. So basically when you divide by 2, you're going to get, even if it is decimal, it's going to work because when you give 2 slashes, then it's integer division. So here it's quite good, right? So you're going to get that. Next, you need to find the S times S minus A and everything should be in the square root. Correct. So have you ever given a thought of what is a negative value in a square root before going into that negative value in a square root? What happens? In mathematics, we could have seen that, right? It will be a complex number. But in this case, are we going to get a negative value by any chance? or no, right? So in this case, are we going to get any negative value by chance? I don't think so, right? So the reason is whatever you do here, s times s minus a times s minus b s minus c. So let's understand this formula. So a plus b plus c by 2, obviously this value for any reason should be positive, and the sides of the triangle is also positive, right? And s is for sure should be greater, right? It should be greater than all those things. So you won't get easily a negative number. So you can be pretty sure you don't deal with a complex number use case here. But the sides cannot be negative, right? Once the user enters sides, it cannot be negative. That's a basic validation we need to check before we proceed. So I could say like if side 1 less than or equal to 0 and side 2 less than or equal to 0, side 3 less than or equal to 0. So either of these conditions, it should be R, correct? Side 1 is less than or equal to 0 or side 2. So people might be more tempted to use AND, but the problem is either of them is less than 0. You cannot do further, right? It cannot be a triangle, proper triangle. It will end up in a collinear or it's not even proper, right? So you just print the sides of the triangle should be greater than 0. Okay. Now, next step. What is next step? You can put everything in the else part. I don't want to talk about the returning and exiting and all right now. So I'm going with the normal way of flow. So I'm going to put everything in the else part, right? So I need to put a tab here basically. Right. Now let's talk about square root. The square root comes on the flow in Python, or do we need to import some things that we will see? Show the error what it comes. SQRT is a function in Python times s minus c. Right. I'm closing the square root. So basically you follow the BODMAS rule throughout. So half a perimeter you calculate it, and then you find the area is nothing but square root of few things. Now print area of the triangle is area. Okay. Now let me see in the same places to do that. Triangle, right? Now let me run this. You'll find errors when we run. Let's see what's gonna happen, or if it's gonna run correctly. Okay. So SQRT is not defined. So what does it mean? So SQRT doesn't come directly. So what we need to do for that? So don't worry with finding the errors first, right? So I don't want to run programs successfully every time. So that's why, as I told, I introduce always the issues that students might run into. So what is this SQRT is not found? First, understand the error, what it is shown in the console, which is clearly telling it can't understand what is SQRT. So as an interpreter, don't have a clue. So what you're talking about? Are you talking about is a function you return? Are you talking about a variable you are using? Everything is confused here, right? So in order for that to understand, let's try import math. Okay. So I will come to this. So let's do math and math dot sqrt. And now you could see a new error which says A, B, C are not defined. So we are tempted to use the formulas, whatever we do, right? So the correct way to do is whatever you used. So side 1 is A, side 2 is B, side 3 is C. So we need to see the errors, right? So people doesn't have the patience to read what it is, and they're afraid of programming sometimes, right? For the beginners. So you don't need to actually. So you could see like it's clearly telling A is not defined. So that's why we change it to the actual variables. We are using it. Let us run again. 4, 3. So you get 6 as the area of the triangle. Okay. Let me move on to the next one. Find the, and also, okay, before moving on, yeah, let me run for negative cases. That means what if I enter a negative value? -6. So here the validation is done after getting all the inputs. You could do at the time of getting the input itself, here itself. After entering this, if side 1 less than 0, don't need to get even side 2, side 3, and side, right? So that's an even better way of doing it, okay? No need to get all 3 inputs from the user, correct? Right, think of it.